Hey guys, and welcome back to another banger of a video on this here channel, Ibbles Games, with me, Ibble. And before we get started on today's content, I'd like to thank you guys for subscribing to this channel, as it just helps out a lot with the growth and the channel, and yeah, so thanks a lot. But anyway, with today's content, as I discussed in the previous video, I'll be looking into other factors that surround a competitive Pokemon, such as natures, abilities, moves, levels, etc. And yeah, so without any further ado, let's get right into things. Firstly, I think I'll dive right into natures. Now, natures are a set value that is determined and given to a Pokemon when you hatch or encounter it. This value is not numerical and can be one of the 25 different natures as seen in the table on screen. For example, some of these being called brave, bold, timid, hasty, and hardy. Each of these natures and the impact they have on a Pokemon cannot normally be changed. However, in the latest game Sword and Shield, which is the most contextually relevant to us and my study, you are able to use mints which can be obtained from various places in Galar, from the Battle Tower in exchange for battle points, or BP for short, or they can be found scattered across the Isle of Armor. These mints can change the Pokemon's nature to the same type of mint it is. For example, a brave mint, if used, would turn that Pokemon's nature to brave no matter what it was before. I'll not go further in depth into how and why you want to use these, as that is for my training and breeding video next week. Anyway, now onto what impacts a nature has on a Pokemon and their stat spread. A nature's job is to boost and hinder certain stats of a Pokemon. This helps to allow for more stylized Pokemon and to allow for different teams in competitive. For example, a lonely Pokemon will have its attack stat boosted by 10% and its defense stat decreased by 10%. This nature also determines the favorite flavor of a Pokemon, which, although it is interesting, is not relevant to this video. So basically, to sum up natures, they are a set factor that boosts and decreases certain stats to add a sense of individuality and allows for stylized Pokemon. They are very important to competitive, as they help to give you a choice to stylize and boost your Pokemon in their strongest stat while decreasing a less important stat, allowing for you to play to your team's advantages and disadvantages. We will now move on to abilities. Abilities are a bit like natures in the sense that they are a contributing factor to a Pokemon's individuality, although they are different in the sense that they do not influence the stats directly and instead have an effect on the battlefield, opposing Pokemon or attacking Pokemon. Some examples of these include weather abilities like Drizzle, which makes it rain, causing a boost in the power of water moves, and Snow Warning, which causes hail, which slightly damages both Pokemon at the end of each round. An example of an effect an ability can have on a Pokemon includes Levitate, which means that the Pokemon with this ability cannot be hit by ground-borne attacks such as Earthquake. A species also has a set ability or multiple abilities that it can have when encountered or bred. These can be changed with an ability capsule to another one or just one of the remaining abilities that species can have. This can be very useful if your current ability is not working with your current Pokemon or their moveset. There are also things called hidden abilities, which, like the namesake, are pretty much hidden from the casual player, as they can only be obtained through very selective breeding, which basically means that when you breed a Pokemon, you have a small chance of them acquiring that rare ability. There is usually only one of these hidden abilities per species, and they are often very handy and competitive. Prior to the release of the Crown Tundra in Sword and Shield, there was not a legal existing way for you to change a Pokemon's normal ability to its hidden variant. But with the release of the Crown Tundra came the release of the Ability Patch. This item allowed a trainer to change the normal ability to its hidden ability, making the hidden variety more accessible and easier to get. Abilities are very important to the competitive metagame and are a crucial part to the build of a competitive Pokemon, and it is beneficial to remember that a Pokemon needs to have an ability that plays to its strengths in battle, and if it doesn't, you have to decide whether that Pokemon is worth it or not. For example, in battle, your ability should complement your moves and types, such as a water Pokemon with Drizzle, which boosts the power of water moves, meaning that Pokemon is further enhanced. A Pokemon should be suited to its ability, and its ability should complement and enhance its power and status in battle. Let's move on now to levels and evolution. Both these things play a pretty big role in the competitive scene. We'll start off by discussing levels, and then we'll move on to evolution in a bit. To start off, levels are a system which helps the Pokemon's power to increase and get stronger in the game to often help with the pacing of the story. Pokemon can level up by gaining XP after a battle or from certain items such as Rare Candy and XP Candy. After they have reached a certain level of XP depending on the Pokemon and its species, they will level up. When they level up, the Pokemon's stats are raised up by 1/50th of its base stat total and 1/100th of its IVs and EVs combined. This process continues until they reach level 100. By level 100, their stats should be fully grown and developed. This is now the optimum time for competitive play, as the Pokemon is fully developed. When you enter a competitive battle, your Pokemon is set to level 50, halving all their stats no matter the previous level, so as to make an even playing field for all players. Another thing you need to know about levels is that there are certain leveling groups which categorize different Pokemon. These can make it easier or harder to get a level 100 Pokemon, as some level groups take more experience and time to level up, like the slow, fluctuating, and medium slow groups, than the other groups being erratic, fast, and medium fast, which are a much faster leveling group. As you can see, there are set equations which determine each of the level groups' amount of XP. Levels also play a huge part in evolution, which in itself plays a huge role as well. Evolution is an important subject you need to decide on when playing competitively, as it can introduce new moves, abilities, and typings that a Pokemon can have, which can positively or negatively impact the way you use Pokemon on your team and the role they play. Evolution is also linked to levels, hence why I decided to include it in this portion of the video, because evolution can only occur for various reasons in the Pokemon world, from weird events such as Galarian Yamask to certain levels. Once these events occur for those Pokemon, they will gain new forms, possible new types, and almost definitely new moves. Although these events are almost entirely different for every Pokemon species. From this, you can obviously see that when playing competitively, you need to consider the level and evolutionary form of a Pokemon, as depending on those things, certain moves and abilities can be gained, and stats developed which can help with the way you play and use that Pokemon on your team. A side note that I thought I would add into this video is that in the latest game, Sword and Shield, you also need to consider Dynamax level. This because with the new release came the addition and possible gimmick of Dynamaxing and Gigantamaxing. This phenomenon is when a Pokemon grows huge in battle and gets stronger. The reason Dynamax level plays a part in competitive is that if you increase it by using Dynamax Candy on your Pokemon, the higher the level, the stronger they get when Dynamaxing by boosting their stats more. This means that if you send in a Rillaboom with max Dynamax levels into battle and Dynamax it, its stats will be a lot higher, such as its HP and attack power, than if you send in a Rillaboom with a low Dynamax level and Dynamax it, as its stats will be comparatively lower than the previous Rillaboom stats, as its Dynamax levels are lower. This is very important to consider, as it increases the strength of a Pokemon in its stats when they Dynamax, making it way stronger in battle and making sure it has much more of a chance of winning that battle. Now we are finally on to the final segment of the video and the final factors that make up and impact a competitive Pokemon. In this segment, we'll be covering moves, status conditions, types, and the physical special difference. Firstly, we'll start off by discussing moves. Moves are an important and integral part to the composition and output of a competitive battle, as they are literally the mechanic which you win by. As Pokemon is a turn-based RPG, in a battle you use moves to deal damage and beat the other Pokemon. These moves are actually divided into two different types, being physical and special moves. The importance of these two groups is that physical stats of a Pokemon, being the attack, and defense stats decide how much a physical move does. For example, if a Pokemon has especially high attack and defense stats and they use a physical move, that move will do a lot more damage than if their special attack and special defense were high instead. This is the same for special moves, with the special attack and defense stats deciding how much damage that special move does. By adding these two categories of moves, it adds an extra level of speciality in the competitive scene to help mix things up. This allows for Pokemon to have roles and be specialized and trained in those different stats to play to the advantage of using those different moves in a battle. Believe it or not, Pokemon moves and the actual Pokemon themselves are actually broken down even further into different types, these being the 18 types: Grass, Fire, Water, Electric, Ground, Rock, Ice, Fairy, Dragon, Psychic, Bug, Steel, Flying, Dark, Fighting, Ghost, Poison, and Normal. As above, the physical and special moves, these types aim to add an extra bit of individuality and specialized training into the competitive mix. This is because certain types are more effective against other types than others. These form things called type triangles, like the commonly known one Grass, Fire, and Water. This is actually a lot like rock, paper, scissors, as grass beats water, water beats fire, and fire beats grass. There are a ton of other combinations like this in Pokemon, some neat like this in a triangle, and some random ones that are on their own. Types are also not just in moves, but also help to define a Pokemon. Oftenly, a Pokemon will have one or two allocated types allocated to them. These types are very important to competitive play, as you need to know how to effectively take down a Pokemon in a battle. Your team should also be balanced so as to cover most types and back each other up. Most moves are also like this and have allocated types which can be super effective or not very effective against the opposing Pokemon. And once again, you need to know how to properly handle these types and be able to take down the opposing Pokemon effectively. Now back onto topic of moves. It is also important to consider and research Pokemon's moveset and when they learn them, as Pokemon can only learn 4 moves at a time and can only learn certain moves at different levels, meaning that you need to carefully consider your move choices, and like I've said before, our Pokemon's moves, stats, and abilities need to complement and boost each other up so that they can be the strongest and best and win a battle. An important note to remember is that once you have 4 moves, you can't learn any new moves unless you forget one of them and replace them. This is very important, as you may want to replace a new move with an old move, as it is much better. There are also things such as move relearners and tutors. Relearners help a Pokemon remember a forgotten move, which is helpful if you need an old move for a specific circumstance. Tutors help a Pokemon learn a new specific move for a price, making them very convenient, as they can provide you with new moves that are great and competitive and will help you win. Move priority is one more thing to consider, as this directly relates to your speed stat and decides whether you or your opponent get their move in first. For example, if you have a higher speed stat than the opponent, then you will most likely go first due to move speed, which states that the higher the speed stat, the quicker you will do their move, and through this you might even be able to get in that OHKO move before the opponent beats you and wins, hopefully winning you the victory. The very last topic and subject for this video before we go into training and breeding next week is status moves. As I talked before about physical special moves, there is also a third category of move being status moves. Status moves are moves that inflict status conditions on an opponent, such as burn and poison, which damage the opponent once every turn until they die or get healed. Some other status moves are sleep and paralysis, which can make the Pokemon inactive for a couple of turns, such as being paralyzed and asleep until they get over it or get healed. The good news about status conditions is that you can inflict them on your opponent and they'll be incapacitated or damaged for several turns, and if you get hit by one, you can always heal with certain items such as full heals and restores, and specialist items such as burn and paralysis heals. These conditions can be inflicted through moves or can be after effects of moves, in the case for Fire Spin, which has a chance to burn the opponent at the end of the turn. By knowing how to effectively use these status conditions, you can make battles a lot easier to win if you know when to use them to incapacitate the opponent and when to heal your own Pokemon. The factors, techniques, and moves that we've discussed today help to build and specialize a competitive Pokemon. By understanding them, you can start to see the full competitive scene and use Pokemon to the best of their abilities to win a battle. Anyway, that is it for today, guys, and once again, I'd like to give a huge thanks to Nerf, Cerebi, GameSpot, Bulbapedia, and IGN, as I got most of my research and resources from them. Now, I'll be linking those down in the description below, as if you guys would like more of an explanation or more in-depth knowledge on some of the topics discussed today, they are definitely the place to go, as they go a lot more in-depth than I did today. Now, as you guys are leaving, if you guys could hit that like button, comment, subscribe, and turn notifications on, that would be great, and it just helps out the channel a lot. Anyway, without any further ado, I'll see you guys next time.